Hi, my name's Paul, I'm a professional colourist and welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about shot matching and we're going to be taking these two clips from Artgrid, both are shot in the same camera, the Sony a7, and both are low quality footage. Now the reason I'm using low quality footage is because it's not every day you're going to be using an Arri Alexa footage to grade on. So I just want to show you some techniques and also highlight what challenges you might face when using low quality footage. So let's jump straight into DaVinci Resolve and let's get started. So here we are in the color page in DaVinci Resolve. This is our viewer. We've got our node tree over here. We've got our lift, gamma and gain, our qualifier and our scopes over here to the right hand side. So we're going to go up to the top. We're going to press clips. And this is going to bring up all the clips that are in the timeline. Now, as you can see, we only have two here, but if we were to have more than that, then they will all be along here and there'll be a slider at the bottom. So as mentioned, these are both shot in the same camera, the Sony a7, and because of that, we're going to be working in the group node. And the other thing to note is that we're going to be look setting first and shot matching second. There are no right and wrongs in color grading. However, you do need to protect the image and the integrity of that image is most important. And this is something that I always do. So let's go ahead and let's select both of these clips. So that's the Option key or the Windows key on a Windows machine. And now we're going to go right click and we're going to add these into a new group. And this window will pop up. Now, I do have a confession to make. I've recorded this video 5 times and this is my 6th time recording it. I've had so many issues and my aim is to produce a video one a week, but at the moment, because I'm just starting out and this is all quite new to me, it is taking me a little bit longer. So if you can just bear with me, at the moment, I'm trying to get one video out a fortnight, but moving forward, we're going to have a video a week. So anyway, back to the video. So we're going to label this Lady at the Beach 6 and we're going to press OK. So what happens next? Up here where we used to have the 2 dots, we used to have the clip and the timeline. We now have group pre-clip and group post-clip. So let's go to pre-clip. Let's go over to our effects. See, we've already got COL and the color space transform is already selected. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop that on our node. Because these clips have come from a Sony camera, we're going to go to the input color space. We're going to scroll down. We're going to go to the Sony S-Gamut 3 dot sign. And our input gamma is going to be the Sony S-Log 3. Now, I always like to work in an intermediate space. I always like to work in Arri Log C. But however, if you do prefer to work in a different space, for example, DaVinci Wide Gamut, then absolutely go ahead and do that. We're going to go Arri Wide Gamut 3 and we're going to go to Arri Log C 3. So let's go over to our effects tab. Let's click that to get rid of that. And we're going to go to our group post clip. As mentioned, we're going to be doing our look setting, so we need to add some nodes. So I'm going to right click, add node, add serial. And we're going to do that again, right click, add node, add serial. And we're just going to do this one more time. Going to go ahead and label these. So right click, node label. This one's going to be our contrast. So this one's going to be COL and that's going to be our color balance. And this one's going to be our saturation. And because we're working in groups, any adjustments that you make pre-group or post-group will affect the image either pre-clip or post-clip. So with this 4th node here, we're not going to be using a color space transform. We're actually going to be using a LUT from the Arri website. So we're going to go up to LUTs, Arri Log C to Gamma 2.4, and we're just going to drag and drop that onto this node. Let's click away this LUT. So we've got our viewer. And now going across both images, you can see that we have normalized both of these images out to a display space, which is Rec 709. So if this is your first time here and you're wondering why I'm using a LUT from the Arri website rather than the color space transform, then check out the video here. Or it might be there, I can never remember where that is. We're just going to go across to our images and we're going to select our hero shot. This second one here, it's a little bit brighter. It's a little bit more washed out. This first clip is a little bit richer and a little bit more normalized. So what I think we should be doing here is matching this second clip to this first clip. So this is going to be our target or our hero shot. And this is going to be the clip that we're going to be matching to that target or to our hero shot. Let's go to the contrast. And the thing that we're going to be using here is our scopes. As you can note, we have got some clipping at the top in the highlights, and we've also got nothing down here in the lower end. So what I think we need to do is we just need to go to our gain, and we're just going to bring that down. And I think there is probably about right, because this is a nice sunny day and we want to make sure it's still bright, but we don't want any clipping. We're just going to go across to our lift and we're just going to bring this down slightly. And I think this is a really good starting place. So now that we've made our contrast adjustments, so let's go across to our color. The other thing I want to do is I want to drop down here to the waveform and select the vector scope. So the reason I want the vector scope is because I want to see where all those pixel values live in the image. And the vector scope is a really good way of doing this. And as you can note here, and by the image itself, there is a shift to the green. So the best way to pull this out is to go to the offset and just pull away to the green into the magenta. And now, because that image is now going a little bit pink, we're just going to pull that down to the blue. So because we have used the offset here, it does mean that all of those pixel values have moved in that direction. So we just need to go back in and fix those skin tones. So let's go to our gamma and let's just lift this up towards that skin tone line, being careful not to bring in too many red tones into the actual image itself. The other thing that I want to do is I just want to go to the lift and I just want to pull out a little bit of that red, and let's go back to the gamma and just push in a little bit more red to give some more life to those skin tones. So I think this is a really good place to be, and we're just going to go over to our color node and we're going to turn this off and on to see how far we've come, and I'm really happy where we are. So the other thing that I want to do is I just want to give this a little more of a pop. So we're going to go to our saturation and we're going to add in 20% saturation. So let's just double click on that and press 60, and I think that is a little bit too garish. So we're just going to increase the saturation by 10% and not 20%. So let's go ahead, type 55 into saturation, and that's bringing her skin tones to life. I still think we can do a little bit more of the skin tones. So we're going to go back to our color and we're just going to go to the gamma and we're just going to bring those up slightly and we're going to leave those there. It's a really simple look, but for the purposes of the demonstration of this tutorial, I'm really happy with where this sits in. So if we go across to our second image, because we have been working in groups, all those adjustments that have made on top of that first image also translate to this second image. So if we just highlight all of these and turn these off and on, you can see that we are in a really good place. However, these clips do not match. So now we need to go in and match this second clip to our target clip or our hero clip. The best way to do that is to go up to our dots, press clip, and then go to our second clip. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work in the exact same node tree. So we're just going to right click, add node, add serial, and we're just going to do this a few times. So add node, add serial. We're just going to go ahead and label these in the same way that we have in our post group. So we're going to go COM for contrast. We're going to go COL for our color adjustments. We're going to label this one as SAT. And now what we're also going to do, because we want to make sure that we work in the exact same node tree across all of our clips in our timeline. So we're going to go across to our first clip. We're going to highlight that. We're going to right click on our second clip where we made this node tree. And now we are going to go up and press apply grade. And what will happen there is all of those nodes will now transfer across to the first clip. We're going to go back to our second clip. We're going to go over to the vector scope because now we want to look at the waveform. And we're just going to use our D-pad to flick across the clips just to see where the image lives. You can see it's all living around the upper mids and the lower end of the highlights. And the second one, it's all in the highlights. The other thing to note is that we have quite a bright sky and we have quite a lot going on here. So we're just going to go to our contrast and we're just going to pull the gain down. And I think there's a really good starting place. So let's go across to our first clip and we're going to be looking at the waveform to see where this luminance level sits. So we've probably gone a little bit too far here. So we're just going to go back to the gain and we're just going to lift this up. Let's go back to our first clip. And I think looking at this blue line here, we can probably afford to go a little bit more. So let's try that. And I'm happy with where we're sitting. So we've also brought the highlights down and I'm happy where we are in the shadows. If we look at this first clip, our shadows are also in a very similar place. So now that we've made some adjustments to our contrast and I'm happy where we're sitting at the moment, we're just going to move on and we're going to go to our color node and we're going to make some color adjustments. That's not to say that we're not going to go back to our contrast to make some more contrast adjustments if we feel we need those. So let's just go back to our first image just so we compare the two. And the best scope to use to do this is the vector scope. So we're just going to go down to the vector scope and let's go back to this first image and we can note where all of these pixels live. So it looks like here is the skin tones and just here's the sky. And I'm going to say this is the sea. And let's just go back to this second image. And you can see that those skin tones are quite close, but they're not exact. And the other thing to note going between the images is that our shadows here are a little bit more neutral and in this one they're a little bit more red. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up the red in the shadows. So we're just going to go across to our lift and we're just going to pull that away from the red to remove that redness. We need to be careful that we don't pull too much out. Just going to lift that up slightly. So let's just turn that off and on. You can see in here that these are a little bit more neutral now, as are these. Really happy with that. So we're just going to leave our color adjustments alone for a minute and we're just going to move on. So the next thing we need to do is we need to check our saturation levels, and you can note saturation levels on the vector scope. further away the pixel values is from the center, the more saturated that pixel is. So here you can see the skin tones are this saturated in this second image, and if we go to our first image, they seem to be slightly more saturated. So let's just go back to the second image. Let's go to our saturation and let's just dial that up to 54. It's a good starting place, and we can see that these are now a lot closer. So let's just turn that off and on, and that is a very slight adjustment. However, we are very much closer in the saturation. So now that we've done our primaries, we're going to move on to our secondaries. So we're just going to go across to our color. We're going to right click, we're going to add node, and we're going to add a parallel. So what a parallel node does, it allows you to make some independent adjustments here without affecting this one here. So we're just going to grab these quickly. We're going to move these over to here. And I think what we need to do is we just need to double check these skin tones. So we're going to go up to the top. We're going to press color. We're going to go down to presets, and we're going to go 6 vector red. What the 6 vector red allows you to do, it allows you to select all of the red pixels in the image. And it's a really good starting point for skin tones, because you can note here that all of the red pixels, especially in their skin tones, are all in. So let's go across to our luminance, because we just want to affect a skin. So let's bring that up so we get rid of the darker pixels. Let's shift that up. And now let's just go to the low soft and spread that out, because we only really want to affect her skin tones as much as possible. So let's just go back to our highlight. Let's click that off. Let's go back to our second clip, and you can note here the skin tones live on the vector scope. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think we just need to go up and over a little bit. So let's just turn that off and on, and that adjustment is absolutely very slight, but you can see the small movement on our vector scope. You can see the point here doesn't move between the two. And visually, I'm really happy of where these skin tones are living. Now that's done, we just need to carry on looking at the image and creating some small micro adjustments or secondary adjustments. Let's just go back to the first image and let's have a look at the sky. You can see that the sky is over here. Let's go back to our second image, and you can see our sky is down here. So we're going to go ahead again. We're going to right click, we're going to add node, and we're going to add another parallel. And again, we're going to go up to color. We're going to go down to presets, and we're going to go 6 vector blue this time. Let's go back up here. Let's press our highlight node. And as you can see, we have selected no pixels in that sky. So we're just going to need to make some adjustments. So the easiest way to do that is to go to our saturation and our qualifier. Let's reset that. We can now get all of those blue pixels no matter what the saturation. However, because this is low quality Sony footage, you can note here that we've got a lot of breakage, and we've also got this bikini down here, and we don't want either of those. So to get rid of these, we're going to go down to our low soft, and we're just going to roll that up slightly, which is going to soften the image out, and we're going to lose a lot of those hard edges. And now we're going to go to our luminance, and we're going to go up to our high, and we're just going to bring that down. We're going to go too far, and let's bring that up slightly. And now let's go to our high soft and roll that up. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to eliminate as much of that bikini as we possibly can. So let's just push that high soft a little bit more to try and get the maximum amount of that sky, and let's just bring that down. So I'm kind of happy where we are, bearing in mind this is low quality footage. So let's just go back up to our highlight node and let's click that, and now we can go ahead and make our adjustments. So let's go back to our first image. Let's note where the sky is. Back to our second image. The other thing that we can do is we select both of our clips. We can go up to here, which is our split screen, and go to our selected clips. This is already selected. In case it isn't, you can press this arrow down and it will show you all these different ways that you can monitor the different clips. So we're just going to click the selected clips, and we're just going to go up to here, this drop down, and press fit. So we've got the full image in both of our viewers. Now we're just going to go down to our offset, and we're going to pull those pixel values of the sky up towards the magenta and purple, and this will break the image. However, the reason we're doing this is so we can find out where those pixel values live in the vector scope, and now we can bring our offset down and just overlay those pixels on top of the other one in that image. So let's just have a look like that. So let's just turn this off and on, and you can see it's a very slight adjustment we've made. So now that we've got our hue in the right place, we just need to double check that these skies match on a luminance level. You can see in this first clip, this sky is a lot darker than this second one. So let's just go across to here and let's just bring the gain down. So now I was expecting this to happen, and it has happened. Because we're using low quality footage, you can see breakage in the sky. So we're not going to be able to do that. So let's just reset that. We can't match this second clip to our hero clip this way because of the sky is breaking. What we're going to do here is we're going to make the adjustments on our hero shot so we make the sky match that second shot. So it's not just about taking one shot and matching it to the first shot. Sometimes you need to take your first shot and match elements of that to the second shot to get that cohesion across your timeline. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go up to color, going to go down to presets. We're going to go 6 vector blue. We're going to press our highlight button, reset the saturation, go up on the low soft to get rid of those hard edges. We're now going to go to the high and the luminance. We're going to bring that down to get rid of the bikini. We're going to go too far. And now we can go up on the high soft, not the low soft. So we can go up on the low soft. We're going to bring that higher down a little bit just to get rid of as much of that bikini as we can. Maybe go up a little bit and leave that there. So let's go back up to our highlight. And now what we need to do is we need to brighten this first image. So let's go to here. So it does seem that the luminance is a lot better, but it does seem to be a little bit more saturated in this sky. We can't add the saturation in this second sky because of the low quality image. So we're just now going to go down to the saturation and we're just going to pull that out. So let's go to around 35. So flicking between the two clips, feels the sky on this second clip is a little less red and a little bit more green. So we're just going to go to this first clip and we're just going to go to our offset and we're just going to pull out half a point, or as close as half a point as we can of the red channel. So let's go back and forth. Maybe we can pull out a little bit more. So let's go to a full point. So let's turn this off and on. And you can see that we've come a really long way. So let's just compare these skies. So there does seem to be a small amount of breakage up here in the top right hand corner of this image. So we're going to go across to our blur and we're just going to see if we can smooth that out. Because we've only got the sky selected, it's only going to affect the sky. So I'm quite happy with where that is. So let's go back to our first shot. And what we might be able to do in this second shot is just pull a touch of that green out. So let's just pull that green out. Let's go back to our first shot. So just flicking between these two images, it does feel that this second image has a slightly brighter sky. So we're just going to go to this first one and see if it can handle a little bit more of a luminance boost. So let's try that. Let's go back to the second one and flick. So I'm really happy with where these skies are living, and this is probably as far as we can go considering the low quality footage. And for me, integrity of the image is 101 and that is paramount. So I'm happy to leave these here. So I'm just going to go ahead, flick between these two clips just to see if there's any adjustments to make. Just want to have a look at those C's. So in this second clip, the C looks like it's down here. So we're just going to go across to the first clip, keep our eye on the vector scope, and actually they are really, really close. We could probably pump a little bit more saturation into this first clip. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to right click, going to go to add node, add another parallel, up to color, go down to presets, and we're going to go to 6 vector green. I'm going to go back up to our highlight mode. And as you can see, we've got absolutely no pixels selected in this image. So let's go ahead to our qualifier. We're just going to go to our saturation. We're going to press reset, and this is going to reset the whole saturation. And let's just go up to our hue. We're just going to grab that and we're going to move that up until we've got more of that sea. We don't want any of the sky, so we've gone too far. So let's just bring that down. And I think there's a really good place. Now you can note here, we've got some unwanted pixels, which will lead to artifacting. So we just need to go to our saturation and we just need to roll our low soft up to get rid of those. So now that they've gone, I also want to soften out the edges at the bottom of the image down here. So let's just roll that up slightly more. Let's just go up to our highlight mode. Let's click that off. Let's just add a little bit more saturation to that to see where there's a starting point. So let's go up to around 55. It does feel that this sea is a touch more green than this sea. So let's just go to our offset to the green channel and let's just add half a point to see where we're sitting. So let's just turn this node off and on. And it is a small adjustment that we've made here, but I just want to dial in that C. It does seem that we could probably take out a little bit of that blue in this first image. So we're just going to go to our offset. We're just going to pull some of that blue out. So let's just pull a point out, or close to a point as we can. And let's just flick across. I think we can probably boost this up slightly. Let's turn this off and on. We've got a lovely green color to that C. And let's just double check this against the second image. So I'm really happy how this has turned out. Just going to play these through just to show you how far we've come and what we've done. It looks absolutely fantastic considering this is low quality Sony AIS footage. So guys, that's all we've got time for today. If you are still here and you have been following along, thank you so much for still being here. If you did get any value out of this, even if it is a small amount, it'd mean the world if you could subscribe and drop me a comment below. It will allow me to grow and allow me to continue to make these videos to help you grow as well as a colourist. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and I'll see you again soon. Thank you, bye bye.